fantastical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL Network.
Yes, that is right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the SNL Network's Hot Take Show. We are live here right after episode number 3 of season 47, talking about the Rami Malek and Young Thug episode of Saturday Night Live. I'm so thrilled to talk about it with some of my favorite people I get to talk about SNL with every single season. And starting off is my man, Andrew Haynes. Haynes, how are you?
I am doing awesome. I really enjoyed this episode. I won't get into it too much right now, of course, but really excited to talk about this. Had a great day, a great day of SNL, and just I think we're going to have a great time.
That was such a fun episode. I can't wait to get into it. Everybody in the chat, please write your comments in throughout the evening. We're going to bring them up on screen as we go. Joining us, and I think he may have liked this episode, it is Andrew Dick from That Week in SNL. Andrew, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Yeah, it was a pretty good episode, wasn't it? I kind of struggling after the first 2 episodes. I always kind of give the premieres a little bit of leeway. It's rare that those are usually excellent, but the Kardashian episode kind of crushed my soul. So it's good to be back with a pretty decent episode.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to talk all about every single sketch from tonight's episode. Joining us is the man from the Saturday Night Project and the expert in all things SNL auditions. It is Robert J. Finn. Rob, how are you?
I'm fantastic, guys. I'm fantastic. You know what they say, that no one hates things more than the biggest fans of them themselves. So the fact that Andrew liked this week's episode, that's huge. Gigantic.
Yeah, this is huge. Huge.
Yeah. Wait, you mean a super fan liked an episode? Come on, get out of here.
It's rare.
Okay, so this is my headline for the night. Let's get into it. Let's talk about this. So, first episode, pretty good premiere. It was good. Last week, a lot of differing, strong opinions about Kim Kardashian West. What I said at the beginning of the season was that episode 3 is going to tell us what this season will look like, in my opinion. That's what I really felt. I felt like this is going to be the most normal, average episode of SNL we are going to see this season. And in my opinion, they passed the test. I really feel like the quality of this episode was much higher than what we had been seeing the past few seasons. So to me, that is my headline for the night. Haynes, where are you at? What is your headline for the night?
Ooh, headline for the night. Like you said, it was a fun episode. So, there we did have some classic kind of push the boundaries a little bit with Che during Weekend Update and that kind of stuff, which I love that kind of stuff. But like you said, it was fun. It was people just seemed to really be enjoying themselves. Rami broke a little bit. I don't actually know what he found that funny in that moment when he broke, but it looked like Heidi was feeling, was trying not to laugh. It almost looked like Cecily was having a little bit of I wouldn't say a hard time, but you could see something in her face just during that final sketch. I think Aristotle was doing such a good job. That actually might be one of my headlines for the night. I was excited to finally see Aristotle in a lead role in a sketch. He's one of the new cast members that I've been really excited about. So that was something that I really enjoyed.
Definitely. Say for me. So I think that's what he was saying at the end of that sketch.
Say for me.
Say Okay. Andrew Dick, give me your hot take or headline for the night.
Ooh, well, just the fun of this episode was the through line. A lot of things I didn't find hilarious, but the energy and the sense of fun kept it going. And I think nobody had it on their bingo card that Aristotle's first debut headlining sketch would be miles more bizarre than Sarah Sherman's. Like that,
true.
Like I'm still reeling from it. I really need to go back and watch it again because, wow, what a beautifully strange sketch that the night ended on.
Yes, definitely. Rob, what was your headline / hot take coming out of episode number 3?
I love when an episode feels like it's not even like a performance as much as it is like the cast and the audience like hanging out a little bit. And I kind of got that sense more than I had definitely anything else. It felt like they were all like, I felt like at any moment, Rami Malek or any of the cast was going to like turn to the crowd and be like, "This is pretty crazy, right? What we're doing up here," and I love that. And then really was completely thrown and for Aristotle's debut performance. And this is my personal hot take. He looks exactly like my godfather, and I will never unsee it.
All right. Well, that's a very personal take.
That's a very hot take.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm telling it shook me to
We
my
have
core.
hundreds of people watching the show. They do not understand what you are talking about right now, sir.
I don't know. I know you guys haven't met my godfather before, but you want hot takes. You can't handle them. Okay.
Okay.
All
right.
All right.
Very bizarre.
All right. Let's get into the episode. Yeah, that was almost as bizarre as that Angelo sketch. So let's talk about this cold open that we saw from this evening. So as we go through the sketches, chat, let us know what you think of each and every one of them. We'll bring up your comments up on screen. So we saw our cold open, and this was different. This was sports themed. So we knew we might see something with James Austin Johnson as Gruden. That certainly happened. We saw a bunch of different cast members come in. Haynes, was there anything about the cold open that really stood out to you?
Well, first of all, we didn't get this reference toward the end, but I, as a child, growing up in the 90s, the late 80s, the early 90s, when I was learning to read, I had a Reading Rainbow t-shirt. LeVar Burton was very important to me. I rocked that shirt a lot in first grade. I didn't think so. As soon as James Austin Johnson came out, I was very excited to see him do as Gruden. It was actually his first impression that I wasn't particularly impressed with. It was okay, but I've heard Gruden's been done by a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of better Grudens. But it was it was a fun sketch. I thought Moffat was pretty funny, and Disney Mukes was a highlight. But maybe Heidi was the best. I felt like really got a lot of laughs out of that character. So pretty good. Okay, cold open didn't blow me away, but I didn't have any problems with it.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective on this thing. I was actually going to say you remind me of Troy from Community when you said your love for LeVar Burton, but Andrew Dick, what do you think? We've been talking all about James Austin Johnson for weeks now. This has been the big story coming into this season. As somebody who is such an expert on everything that's happened in the history of SNL, who does James Austin Johnson remind you of the most? Is there any one-to-one comparison that really stands out for you?
Well, for one, my stepfather.
Yeah.
No, I mean, obviously obviously it's Daryl, for sure, that he's just, they're able to throw him any sort of bizarre impression for the week, and he can more or less nail it, at least be, okay, I understand what he's doing there. And it's been quite some time since the show has had a dependable utility guy like that on the show. So it's already crazy that he's 3 episodes in and has done quietly so much, especially for the cold opens, which, even throughout the history of the show, not always my favorite thing, but he's really been able to give them a little boost of energy. And for tonight's cold open, it was all right, and then it went on for 4 more minutes. It started pretty good, and then actually I don't want to cast aspersions, but I think by the time we got to Heidi and Kyle and stuff, and just more people kind of piled on, it started to lose focus, and I was like, no, I think we had a pretty solid 4 minutes there that we then just kind of expanded into 8 minutes, and I don't think it needed to be that long.
To touch on that, Dick, not to cut you off, but I think that was what reminded me of, and it's a great point that you're making about kind of all these characters continuing to go through after it wasn't particularly amazing sketch so far anyway. It reminded me of the political cold opens where we just keep churning in characters, and I'm just kind of, it's fine for the first handful, but it doesn't need to go on forever. And that was kind of a vibe that I got from it.
Yeah, it really would have been served much better at 4 minutes. In, out, get the show started. So.
But I don't want to also understate why, because I actually think that Colin Jost did not get enough credit, because I actually think that maybe the impression was like whatever, he was still playing Colin in that thing, but I actually think the lines and the writing, and I know that he helped write this cold open, Colin, I actually think that he did really great writing for those first 4 minutes. So like I want to credit him for everything that you two are saying. Rob, how did you feel about the cold open tonight?
Was going to make actually two things related to what you guys said. Was going to make the comparison to the political cold open first right away. It's just like whatever happened in the past week, how can we cram in as many like kind of topical references and people that were mostly discussed, and impression after impression. Not even that that's a good or a bad thing, but it's a template that's followed. And like if you'd watched it with the sound off, you probably could have been like, this is probably a political cold open, right? It's just kind of the same flow. But I love Jost non-weekend update sighting. It's like, it's almost like when Lauren pops up, it's just like, oh, look, they let him in. They let him do a character this time. He's
like that funeral sketch from the premiere.
Exactly.
He just
5 minutes.
He just goes up there and like, it's like this big inside joke with the audience, just like, this isn't what you do. What are you doing up on the stage? You're the behind the desk guy. But love that. And then also, I had never made the connection to JJ and Daryl Hammond, but man, is that spot on. In Daryl Hammond, I think it was either like documentary or book, said that.
Where have you been the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I feel like everybody's been saying that.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
You've been hanging out with your stepfather too much.
On the show? Jesus. Okay. Well, before I was rudely interrupted.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Daryl Hammond said he's someone who has, you probably already said this last week, I'm sorry. He has no face and can have anyone else's face put on him, whereas like beautiful, famous people do not. So
yes. All right, Rob, since we're getting at you too much, why don't you start us off and tell us what you thought of this monologue?
Well, let me take notes to talk to my therapist on Monday about what happened today. The monologue, the comparison I thought of immediately was very John Malkovich-like. And it's sort of like someone who you can so clearly tell is like a trained, professional, talented actor who's committed, down for whatever, giving it his all, but it's just slightly off. And that doesn't mean it's worse or better. And I think that whole kind of lane of acting stuck with him throughout the episode. And I think just like John Malkovich in his episodes, sometimes the fact that he's a little bit off in what he's doing makes it funnier. Sometimes it makes it less funny. So his monologue, I thought, was like first 10 words out of his mouth. I was like, it's like John Malkovich, really talented guy, but he's not there. He's honored to be there. He's happy to be there. And I've loved him for quite a long time. So he looked genuinely thrilled to be on stage. And what's better than that?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this monologue, and it was because I really felt like it was like almost like a bit of a stand-up set, and we weren't expecting that from a dramatic actor. And that's what I really enjoyed. Like, I really just felt like this was very well written. Andrew, Dick, did you agree with that?
It was all right. I'm just liking so far this season, if I'm not mistaken, our first 3 monologues have all been true monologues. Nobody's come out to help or whatever. It has just been the host doing their thing up there, establishing their character or whatever. And
we got a shot of the Wilson brothers in episode 1, but besides that, it's really like exactly what you're
doing. But no Cass Keenan hasn't come up and like, hey, how's it going? So we haven't gotten any of that. None of that like cast member jutting in thing. It is like a true SNL monologue. And so, I got some decent chuckles. I like the, what was it? Freddy Krueger teaching kids how to dream and stuff. Was a pretty good laugh. But, I think otherwise nothing really to write home about. But yes, definitely like Malkovich vibes, Peter Sarsgaard vibes, if we're going to throw it back to like SNL hosts. So, generally, from cold open to monologue, we're getting good vibes.
For sure. Haynes, do you think this is a purposeful decision by the show to let the monologue be a monologue, or just the host that happened to be there, that was what was best written for them?
Well, I mean, of course, it's, there are no choices that aren't made on this show. Nothing happens by accident. I mean, sure. I mean, occasionally something might go wrong in a sketch or something, but I mean, they knew. Yeah, I think they wrote some straight monologues. I didn't love this monologue as much as some of the other folks, it sounds like. I didn't expect myself to already being agreeing with Andrew Dick on multiple points this early into the show. All right. But it was very all right to me. I mean, honestly, Kim K's was better, and I don't know that it's necessarily, on the actor as much as I just thought I loved how the writing was just full of burns during Kim K's monologue, and I love roasts and insult comedy and those type of burns. So this was very average to me. I didn't hate it. It wasn't unbearable. I am not a fan of the song-a-log. It's got to be a really great song and dance routine for me to enjoy the song-a-log. I usually refer to it as the dreaded song-a-log. So this wasn't as bad as some of those can be sometimes, but it was very average to me. And like I said, my first thought was, I actually enjoyed the monologue last week more.
Interesting. I mean, I think that the thing here is that we have to watch next week if the monologue ends up being a solo monologue. Obviously, the expectation is that Jason will have some people show up, but
I would not put money down on it. Would not put money down on it.
But it's something to watch for sure. All right, let's talk about the sketches that we saw tonight. We started off the night with this bug assembly sketch where we got all these different bugs, and we got Bowen appearing as Daddy Long Legs. So Haynes, what'd you think of this one?
I really liked this one a lot. Bowen seems to really steal the show when you give him a lead role. He was, he's so good on Weekend Update because he gets to be just the character. He gets to just have those, 2 or 3 minutes to himself. And this was absolutely fantastic. It was fun seeing Andrew Dismukes in, a few sketches like back to back. And I think maybe we saw him again later in the night at some point, maybe in a smaller role. But Bowen really stole the show here. It was my first really hard laugh out loud moment. Didn't occur during the cold open or the monologue, but I think it was when after he had corrected Keenan and told him he does like to be referred to as daddy, and then Heidi tried to address him as daddy, and he says, "I don't want that from you." and that was my first hard laugh out loud moment. I enjoyed this. Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. It ended in a really funny way. It felt like it kind of just chopped and ended. I didn't feel like a clear coming to the end moment. But I enjoyed it a lot.
I think the line for me, and I don't know how other people felt about it, but I loved it. I think it was Sarah. She's like, "Why isn't there mommy long legs?" And I thought that was really funny. And
is that the one that's when he followed her up with "I will scare you in the shower, bitch"?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Andrew, what do you think of this one?
This one could have gone south pretty quickly for me. I'm not huge on camp in SNL. But it got over pretty damn hard for me. Not only did, strangely a big night for Bowen, and it starts here. And so just Daddy's got this really. The whole thing really sang for me. And there was still enough for Rami and Sarah and Andrew to do, and Keenan and Heidi as well. So it didn't feel like he was completely swallowing up the entire scene. But still, I don't know. This is the kind of sketch that usually does not work for me. And this one did get over. So that is a shocking win in this episode's corner.
Yeah, our friend Rusty in the chat says he liked it when one of Bowen's arms fell off. And Rob, I actually think this made this sketch so much better. Yeah, it made it so much better just seeing him trying to get the daddy long leg back to the back of the stage. I thought this was great.
That a perfect happy accident. I I think
boys.
any time that Bowen is something that is not related to anything that relevant, like news or anything that's happened this week, if it's something that is kind of out of left field, he comes on and then it immediately to me becomes the Bowen show, which I have no complaints about. I was actually going to say the opposite in terms of him not swallowing the stage. When for that specific sketch, everyone did great, but in my head it was like, now they're showing Andrew Dice Mukes. When are they going to cut back to the main guy, Bowen? Oh God, does he make me laugh? So it's a interesting to see him just become the a certified star, and I think that he had other opportunities for non-political, pure comedic, character-driven stuff, which he, as he always does, commands, controls the room, and I loved it.
Yeah, I think this was a really strong episode for Bowen. One of his strongest episodes that I've seen, since he's become a cast member. I know that, he had the thing on Update. He had the person in the Mattress sketch, and which wasn't necessarily like a lead role. But I'm just saying, as far as like, this was his sketch. He also had the piece on Update. I think this was a really strong episode for Bowen Yang. Then we got our Squid Game pre-tape, and I'm curious for the panel, have any of you watched Squid Game, and did you need to watch this? So like, you watched it, Rob?
Yes. And
okay, did that help you enjoy the sketch more, you think?
Not necessarily. All that sketch did is get that catchy, twangy country pop song stuck in my head immediately. And I know for the rest of the week, there's going to be a point I'm just sitting there bopping back and forth to it. Just like, the Squid Game theme song. But
and we're not going to spoil Squid Game for the chat.
No, of course not. No.
Yeah. We're just talking about the sketch. Yeah.
Terrific show. Highly recommend it. But the pure, I think, juxtaposition of this crazy world with these colors and competition and scary death with then twangy country is just as soon as I saw what they were doing, I was like, this will work. These two things go together. And loved it.
Andrew Dick, I'm curious your take on this sketch. I was watching this. I was thinking, I know that, we've seen a lot of rap pre-tapes last season. This time we got to see more of a country trap pre-tape. What was your opinion on the Squid Game pre-tape?
Well, okay. So I haven't seen Squid Game, but I have seen Battle Royale. Does that count?
No.
Yes? Anybody? No? It doesn't count?
Rob's the expert here.
Oh,
it is not. Crap. It does not count.
Son of a gun.
They're two different things. Where have you been?
I don't have Netflix. I have my own podcast to do. I don't have time for TV. This did little for me, to be honest. It seemed
never heard that before.
Oh, my catchphrase is back. Okay, I haven't seen the show, so I don't know if this gets into finer details. But it did just seem like the sketch was, here's a country song that explains the premise of Squid Game. And then there's a joke about the Jets, and that's it. I could not find any jokes in this. And I don't know if that's because I haven't seen the show or what. But I wasn't laughing. I was like, what's happening? This is just the show, right? This is what the show's about. So where's the joke?
Right. Okay. Interesting. I mean, look, it's a good point. Like Monette says in the chat, SNL Korea apparently has been doing a lot of parodies of this show. I mean, this is the #1 show, I believe, ever on Netflix. So I think it had to be addressed in some way. It was addressed partially in like a one-off line in the cold open last week, but they decided to go all in on the pre-tape tonight. Haynes, where were you on this one?
Well, I enjoyed it, but I think that probably was because I have seen Squid Game all the way through. And it's not an unfair point, even though Andrew Dick hasn't seen Squid Game. Yeah, I mean, they did just pretty much just touch on like some of the major action points in, throughout the show. It was, kind of catchy. I don't know it was country, but it almost they were speaking slowly, but it still had kind of a rap kind of cadence feel to it. And
Lil Nas X.
Yeah,
exactly.
totally, exactly. Yep. That's
who was the
same
big
thing I
guy?
thought.
Does anybody know who the bigger?
So
Yes.
that was going to be my question. He's clearly like a famous country singer, right? He's got to be.
So he's not famous.
He's acting
but
famous.
No, his name is Big Wet, I believe, and he
No,
is,
no, it is not.
Yes. His name is Big Wet, and he is a country trap singer. So
Oh,
I just like,
dear.
Yeah. It was nothing like crazy. It was not like some writer that gained like a ton of weight. Like it was just a country trap singer.
It was Streeter. He just put on a few pounds.
Yeah.
How did they get in touch with that guy? Imagine him getting that call. It's just like
Pete probably hangs out with him.
I think Pete just knows these people.
That's probably true. Yeah, him and Machine Gun Kelly just all hang around. And
Yes. I know that Stephen Castillo wrote this one and produced this one, so I don't know if there was connection somewhere there.
Oh, interesting. And that would be his first for the season so far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that'll be and that's what I think his girlfriend Calhan said that on Twitter as well. She's the one who told us who that person was in the pre-tape. I'd say that the one thing that I did enjoy this, and I know a lot of NFL talk tonight, but I love this throwaway line that we had at the end that he lost the money by betting it on the Jets. I think for like any New York Jet fan, that just like hurts hard. Then we get into the Prince auditions, and Haynes, I don't know about you, but I was expecting Fred Armisen to walk right out there, and I didn't see him for the Prince auditions.
That didn't cross my mind, but of course it makes sense. The one thing, obviously, my Twitter handle is, at SNL has a cast. So, part of my thing is that I'm not super in love with cameos that aren't bringing like a ton of natural comedy talent. I love it. I don't mind when they're ex cast members, and particularly if it's a stand up or something, that's not gonna, rub me as, so far in the wrong direction. I don't hate Daniel Craig, and I didn't hate this, but I didn't like that his role in the sketch was only written around the fact that it's Daniel Craig showing up in a sketch. I didn't like that. That's to me like the epitome of just it's the worst version of why to bring a celebrity on. Obviously, it's promoting what Rami's doing as well. So I get it, and it's not like he wasn't funny. And I enjoyed him in his role later in the night, but particularly that role later in the night could have been played by anyone else. And the thing about this is, during this sketch, it couldn't be played by anyone else because his whole chunk of the sketch was just about that Daniel Craig shows up. So I don't love that. But listen, the sketch itself was funny. I liked the Prince, impressions, if that's what you can call them, as they're dancing and kicking their feet around. It was fun. It was one of many sketches that included Punky, where she didn't have many lines, where she had like maybe one or two lines. And I know she was kind of in several sketches tonight, but just always in the background. So I don't know what to make of that, but listen, it was fine. I enjoyed it. And they were funny. Keenan and Rami were both funny.
You best believe we're going to be playing that Kiss sound drop on the podcast all week long in our roundtable at our patron show. Andrew Dick, what do you think of the Prince auditions?
Well, this did little for me. Now listen, and also if you're on the East Coast, you just saw before this episode aired a repeat of that Daniel Craig episode. And now out steps Daniel Craig again. I felt for this sketch, like the whole beginning with Keenan and Rami, beyond the initial visual, I was struggling. Like, is it the repetition? Is that the funny thing? Because they're like, the reactions. I was just like, what's happening here? And then Daniel came out like 8 hours into the sketch. And I was like, okay, now he's like, all right, that's an escalation of the idea. Now he thinks he's playing some like British Prince, the dandy foppish Prince. Okay, that's fine. But then we didn't go anywhere from there either. And so the whole thing felt so unbelievably thin that I'm surprised it made it on air until Daniel Craig came out. And I was like, that's why this is on air. But it's probably the weakest of the night for me. I was very baffled by this, and not in a good way.
Interesting. Okay, Rob, where were you on the Prince auditions?
Was not my favorite. Ironically, as soon as it became obviously Prince impressions, I within the span of about 10 seconds went, oh wait, I think this person's going to show up, and then oh wait, no, he's not. It came on, and I thought they're going to have Dave Chappelle's version of Prince pop up, and then I was like, people aren't super sure about what to do with Dave Chappelle right now. They're not going to take that risk.
That's not. If Fred's not showing up, Dave Chappelle's definitely not showing up.
Yeah, it was exactly like, what if they had just? Oh well, no way, that's not going to happen. So it was one of those things where I almost set the expectation for myself that I immediately was like, well, that would never happen. But yeah, Daniel Craig popping in here, and I know we'll talk about the other sketch later. Felt almost like being, not that he needs it, but being thrown a bone by the fact that when he hosted before to promote his movie, his movie release then got moved a year ahead because of COVID. Because I think it was March that he hosted it last year. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but that was where my head went. But yeah, it's just, and obviously he's in the movie with Rami, so it makes sense. But I think it's a very good way to put it, is like the reason it wouldn't get cut from Dress is because it's like, well, Daniel Craig's in this one, we can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So let's do the best we can.
I think the thing for me is like, how do you have Daniel Craig at the show and don't have him be part of introducing the musical guest? I mean, if you want to talk about the show getting meta, to me, that is crazy. So
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know how you don't do that.
trick.
Yeah, I mean, that to me was like so obvious, and like nobody tell me that the producers at SNL don't know about the Ladies and Gentlemen the Weekend like Twitter stuff. So they definitely know about that. So I was just stunned not to see him doing that, at least, because the things we got him in were like, okay, you know, it was like just he was there to be like the sub host of the night. We had next our Celebrity School game show with host Bert Simpson. We had a lot of impressions in this one. So if you like impressions, this is the sketch for you. And Haynes, I know you do like impressions. So which ones really stood out to you?
I love impressions. That's why Daryl Hammond is one of my favorite cast members of all time. To me, this sketch had multiple highlights of the night for me. First of all, I mean, I won't bury the headline here. That Coolidge was amazing. Chloe Fineman's Jennifer Coolidge was amazing. It was so great. I mean, obviously Chloe Fineman is a master impressionist. But Rami Malek's Pete Davidson stole the show, right? Like that was
really good.
So good. It sounded so much like Pete. It was hilarious to me. Mikey's John Oliver was terrible. And I don't see how anyone can argue with me on that. That was atrocious. I mean, I really appreciate impressions, and that was a bad one. But the Jennifer Coolidge was amazing, and good on Rami for nailing that Pete Davidson. Like, I really this sketch absolutely to the night.
So that Jennifer Coolidge, Chloe Fineman was actually done on Jimmy Fallon's show a couple weeks ago, and Chloe was on Fallon. So for me, I had already seen that, and I think if you hadn't seen that, that would have really like stunned you to see how great that was. Andrew, Dick, was there an impression? Yeah, exactly. Andrew, was there an impression that you really loved?
I like Bowen's George Takei. That really tickled me for some reason.
I feel like
really
George Takei's an easy one, though.
It amused me.
Oh my!
It's almost like a walk-in.
It's cheap. It's easy. It made me laugh. This all seemed like, you know, a pretty long walk just to get to the Pete and Rami thing, which was amusing enough. I really felt like this is another one that kind of needed tightening. Like I don't think the John Oliver needed to be in there. Like I don't think we needed 8 impressions. We needed like 4. And it had the kind of like Celebrity Jeopardy problem where like it seemed like we go through the introductions for like half the sketch before it could even really start cooking. And so it was all right, especially for the impression-a-thons, which I'm not always huge on, because they can be kind of just thinly, produced in terms of concept. Like I just, there wasn't a really clean through line here. But I did get some chuckles. The whole Rami and Pete thing was cheeky. You kind of expected them to do that. So, it was all right. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. But, it was okay. It was okay.
Okay. Rob, what about you? An impression that you really liked?
It was a lot of kind of different enjoyments for like some. The John Oliver one was very bad. And I think that now doing a John Oliver impression is like a part of your skill set, where it's like everyone kind of has one. And it used to be that I think one of the first times that they did an impression of him on the show, it almost ruined him, the person, for me, because it was so good. And I was like, oh, he does talk like that. Whereas it's gone to a point, and especially it showed, I think, with Mike and this one, who I think does some great impressions, that it's just sort of like overdone. On the other end of the spectrum, I didn't see Chloe doing Jennifer Coolidge on Fallon, I think. And that was my favorite thing, is when there's someone who you haven't thought you could do a perfect impression of, that a person could do a perfect impression of, and then they nail it. Like when Vanessa Bayer did her Rachel Green from Friends a few years ago, I remember being like, oh my God, that's exactly how she talks. And that I had very much had that moment with her doing Jennifer Coolidge. That was terrific. And then Rami's Pete was hilarious. Pete is such, I don't want to call him an easy target, but he's just, he's so lively and colorful that there's so much that someone doing an impression of him can get out of it. And he soaked it all in. So as impression trains go, was some hits, some misses, but that's everything always, I guess.
Yeah, and honestly, the Melissa's Kristen Wiig was so great. I know we brought it up, but I thought that it was just so killer, everything she was saying. And like, these are the types of things that happen on SNL sometimes. And like, there's a lot of people who are watching SNL that maybe didn't watch Kristen Wiig on SNL. That's not any of us tonight. I know you're all the hardcore fans, but I'm saying there's a lot of people who watch the show that didn't watch Kristen Wiig on the show. And I think when you see that stuff, it's extra special when you have seen Kristen Wiig on the show and the relationship between Kenan Thompson, who's hosting this sketch, and Kristen Wiig. And just to see Melissa play a beautifully done Kristen Wiig in front of Kenan, I think makes that sketch so much more interesting, or at least that part of that sketch. So those are the types of things that I look for. The little, it's really hard to evaluate a sketch train, an impression train, as we're describing. It's hard to evaluate that as a complete sketch, unless you're going to say, okay, there was too many of this or too little of this. But what we can take out the little bits. I really enjoyed that Kristen Wiig part. I thought that was fantastic.
It feels like they're almost honoring the forefathers when they do impressions of people who were previously on the show. Jimmy Fallon did an Adam Sandler impression in his audition, and this was like late 90s or something. And got to be Adam Sandler at that time. Like, people are doing impressions of me now, so it's this almost this like flattering level of fame that
it's really cool.
It's great.
Andrew, get in here.
I want to point out James Austin Johnson's absolutely nightmarish Adam Driver. Freaked me out. It was insane. It was the scariest thing I've seen this entire month. I just want to point that out. It was freakish.
But
the head was so small.
But
I don't know.
You mean nightmarish in a good way, though, right? That's what you're saying.
I don't even know. It just freaked me out. It really freaked me out. Now, I wanted to, but we've kind of passed over it. But
that's the point.
That was just.
I thought it was pretty solid. Yeah.
It was solid.
But it was scary.
The whole visual was just so strange to me, especially since I've haven't really gotten a beat on James's natural face. Like, we've kind of seen him heavily made up so far. So that whole thing, it just it was kind of it was kind of nightmarish to me. Not expecting that.
I gotta rewatch that one. That one is really cool. Let's talk about Weekend Update. So we had 3 different sets of appearances on Weekend Update tonight. We got some interesting jokes. Haynes, let's talk about Bo and Yang. Or is that the one you want to talk about?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it was the. I mean, I guess I think it was the best. At least I thought it was the best when I was seeing it, but I didn't know that I really felt like Linus and Roy came on a lot stronger than I thought they were going to at the beginning. Mikey Day was really had me, kind of crying toward the end of that. I was really enjoying that. But yes, Bowen's was, like I said at the beginning of the show, he steals the scene whenever you give him a chance. So I enjoyed that a lot. It was just great to see, it's nice to see 3 sets of characters. And as far as Weekend Update in general, I liked that first Bats joke, even though it took me a second to know where he was going with it. Like I paused when he said, what about bats? And I thought, okay, is this just like absurdist humor or something? And then it took me a second before he started to explain, like, of course, that's, the last time bats carried something, they spread it all over. And I did get a good laugh out of that. And the Che email joke was funny.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting stuff here in Update. It was a long update. Andrew did either the Bowen or the Chris or the Mikey and Keenan stuff. Like, what stood out to you here from Update?
Okay, well, Update in general seemed rather chaotic. I think it worked more for other people than it did for me. I think the actual jokes from Jost and Che were probably, of the 3 episodes so far, I probably the weakest. A couple good laughs in there, but I think the last 2 episodes had some pretty strong Update jokes from them, and this one was a notch down. Bowen, obviously the highlight. I just, much like the whole iceberg thing, I love Bowen getting so conceptually bizarre. And this one really bandied about, oops, knocking my mic, kind of bandied about 2 concepts at the same time, where he's been outed, but then also he has the thing that he wants to come in and talk about. And it really comes together quite nicely. Chris's thing, I think I lost the thread on. I could be wrong.
It was kind of weird.
It finished strong. It finished strong.
Yeah.
To me, it was
strong.
shaky. It was shaky at the start. It finished strong, probably just because of the reference to his appearance on 2/29/20. But they gelled a little bit more. They were like working together in the right way. They were laughing and playing off of each other in the right way toward the end of it. It wasn't just that reference. I also think they just kind of locked in a little bit more toward the end of that. But I wasn't super impressed when it started. I did think it finished strong. The Chris.
Fair enough. It's another one where I feel like I kind of need to go back and rewatch it, because I felt like by the end I'd kind of lost the thread. And the Mikey and Keenan thing, it was all right. Keenan seemed to be having so much. Keenan was having infinite more fun than I was, and that did kind of help me. But the whole concept and what was being put over just didn't really quite jive with me. So, I mean, that's fine. But the whole Oompa Loompa thing, I mean, that really, I got what I wanted out of Update. I got a strong conceptual piece and a couple good Update jokes, and that's fine for me.
I will just toss this out there with the Mikey and Keenan thing. It's classic escalation, but I think Mikey does really well in the classic escalation stuff. I enjoyed his performance through the end of that.
Yeah, Rob, get in here. What did you like from Update?
Bowen, 1, but it's my own personal preference. But I mentioned it when he was the Daddy Long Legs earlier, and exactly like Andrew just said with the iceberg comparison that was going to make. It's when he sort of is nothing related to anything present in reality, where it's like some just completely out of left field thing that is not making necessarily a comment about anything or parodying anything. I feel like him and I forget, maybe it was Sudi who wrote the iceberg thing with him. I can't remember, but I feel like it's something they just come up with when they're together and like, imagine if we did something about the Titanic iceberg. And then next thing you know, it's the funniest sketch of the week. The Che and
year.
What'd you say?
Yeah, for the month, the year, it was great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. The Che and Jost email mentions. I don't know. I want to start a GoFundMe and raise money to hack and get those emails, because I can't imagine what their back and forth is like behind closed doors. I'm not advocating for it.
Want any more emails being
It's
leaked.
true.
So,
It's true. Yeah. But yeah, I love, and I imagine that it's so, just so much, trash talking back and forth to each other. I would love to see it. And then the Chris Red piece as well, as it was going, I completely lost what was going on and distinctly was like, I'm gonna have to rewatch that. I probably shouldn't talk about that on the podcast. So
Blimps.
So don't.
That's
so
what
It was
don't.
about blimps.
Yeah.
No. I'm saying lost the thread entirely. I was like, don't get it.
Okay. But the two things for me that I love the end of the Chris bit. I mean, Chris was losing me a little bit too. I didn't know what exactly he was going for with this whole thing, because like he was playing himself, but he wasn't really playing himself. So I almost wonder, and this happened a lot in the early days of SNL, especially with the original cast, where they would play versions of themselves in sketches. And I was like, is Chris trying to play a version of himself in this particular piece? Like
Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So that's where I felt like Chris was going with this, but I was trying to like follow the thread. And
we're
then
just not used to that either. So
yeah, not in modern day SNL, that never happens. And I mean, they actually did that a couple times tonight, right? Like they did. Oh, here's like in the Prince sketch, they had like people playing themselves as well. So it was like that was weird.
Yeah, Keenan was playing Keenan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, so this is a thing tonight. And so the the flashback to February 2020, I love that. I thought that was so smart. That was really funny to watch. And then you know what, the Mikey and Keenan thing, I thought it was really fun. But the best line to me really was at the end, where Keenan as Roy was like, "Hey Che, tell the strippers to wear masks in your dressing room." I thought it was such a good throwaway line. So yeah, I agree. Fun update, but a little maybe not as clean as the last 2 weeks that we got to see. Then we get to Mattress Store, and this is another Bo and Yang piece with 80 and Rami. I think this is the first 80 appearance we had in the entire night up until this point. So it was weird. We weren't sure if 80 was in the building, and then she showed up for this piece. Haynes, what do you think of Mattress Store?
I enjoyed it. It didn't blow me away, but it was enjoyable. And this highlighted something that 80 does really well, that we've seen her do in a lot of different sketches, which is that super over the top Victorian drama style delivery, where they're like really actory and really charactery, in those, performative performances. That redundance is on purpose. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun. It didn't, blow me away or anything. I don't know that I'll, tell people about it or remember it super far into the future after this, but it was funny. And, like some of the other stuff we've seen, you're kind of just, it's a little bit of a slow escalation thing. And, but yeah, it worked for me.
Okay. Andrew, did it work for you?
I thought this was our best live sketch of the season so far. Bill Kenny pointed out.
I asked you for a hot take.
Now that's a hot take. That is a hot take.
Oh yes. This is real good. And Bill Kenny points out, Terry Catan vibes. This really did feel like a late '90s SNL sketch, and that hits right here. Good escalation of a solid concept. Really working in the realm that, as you point out, 80 truly works well in. Get my killing gun. The fact that the guns were there, like, it just kind of piles on all these absurd details. And like when we get to that first, I felt it was really off to the races, and probably the best of the night and the best of the season so far.
Okay,
but pretty solid. Pretty solid.
Yeah.
Liked it. Strong concept, strong execution, good laughs. Enjoyed it.
Okay, Rob, it seems like the Andrews are totally in simpatico tonight. Like they're just really on the same page about everything. Do you agree with them?
I thought it was good. Best of the season.
Best of the season, baby.
That's a scorcher. A scorching.
With 3 episodes in, best of the season, baby.
Honestly, I can't even process that stupid statement right now enough to try and think of like a live sketch that's actually better. But like that, but I don't know where I did not feel to me like it had the energy of a best sketch of the season through 3 shows. It's wow. That is a hot take.
It had a contained energy. It was a sketch. This is an SNL sketch. It's a scene. It had an escalation, characters built, ideas continue to run. More and more things are introduced into the sketch.
This is coach speak. You're giving me coach speak.
I was gonna say,
run fast.
Yeah, yelling very much. Well, back in my day, this is how we used to do a sketch.
Yes, this is how we used to do sketches.
Ah, good.
They are scenes.
You should let SNL know then. They should figure that out for.
I've been trying so hard. They won't listen to me.
Just me.
Yeah, nuts. Yeah, but
Just
the one thing is that that I thought of it was just like an SNL sketch that was fine, and I will never think about it again. That was what I would categorize it.
Rough.
Well, we're going to be talking about this one for a while. Yeah.
It was an okay slice of pizza when you were kind of hungry. No.
It was a good slice of life. So I think that.
I think the chat's backing me up on this, though. Chat's backing me up. So.
Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
You've just been recycling chat content all night. They say cheeky, you say cheeky. They say chaotic, you say chaotic.
Did I say cheeky?
Get it together. Come
No,
on,
but
with your own
has
Has that
opinion.
been going on?
That's his thing, because Andrew always comes on here and then he's arguing with the chat. So he had this master plan tonight that he was going to read what the chat was saying and then reverberate it onto the podcast.
God,
Get back in with them. So okay. So then we got through Mattress Store, which is really good, and we're going to break that down throughout the week. Then we had a bunch of sketches that got cut for time. So including a Please Don't Destroy pre-tape, which I was disappointed about because they had really like the first one was really hyped, and I was really excited to see what they were going to do as the follow-up. Could the follow-up have not had been as strong, or as our friend Jillian said last week, maybe these Please Don't Destroy things are so evergreen they don't have the hosts in them that they can put them in any show. So it's really a timing thing. So I would look to have that in the Sudeikis episode, which would be interesting potentially.
Oh, and to point out timing, just for the episode, super shocked that Young Thug's first performance was like a minute and a half. Yeah. So I'm wondering just how, like I did feel like the first handful of sketches were kind of running longer than they needed to. And then we got to the musical guest, and like before I could even go, this kind of sucks, it was done. And I was like,
yeah. So Andrew, we have the planned times for every sketch and musical performance and update and everything over here. And the planned time for that first Young Thug performance was 1:55, which must be very short in the history of the show.
That has
terms
to
of, like,
be
any performance.
Crazy short.
Yeah. The second one was 3:25. So interesting.
Beyond Ashley Simpson, biffing her thing, that has to be the shortest performance the show's ever had.
That's so funny. Okay, so let's talk about our last sketch that we ended up getting, which was Angelo. And Angelo was not supposed to be the last sketch of the night. There was supposed to be a couple sketches afterwards, but Angelo ended up being interesting. I don't know if any of those cover times are going to end up online, so we could see what made them choose to keep this one. Is it Daniel Craig, being there, that they ended up choosing to keep the Angelo sketch in? And if that is the reason, then great for Aristotle, who got his first lead sketch role of the season. So Rob, I'll start with you. Thoughts on Angelo?
Well, first of all, and everyone cares about this, he actually looks just like my godfather. So that was the big takeaway. But it was I think we were talking about a little bit before, perfect 10-to-1 sketch where it's just like not thrown together, but it's kind of mumbly and just like see where they go with it. Daniel Craig obviously popped back in, and he just was there for his contractually obligated appearance. But it again felt like, and this also happened, I think, during Weekend Update, I mentioned at the beginning, it again felt like a sketch and the whole kind of vibe of the night where it was less of a performance and it was more the audience, the cast, and the hosts like hanging out, enjoying, and being just like silly. Which is I relate to more emotionally, I guess. And that, I think, was a perfect cap on how I felt about the entire episode the entire time. And I thought Aristotle, he was, for what that was, terrific, and I can't wait to see more of him.
Andrew, I know that we talk a lot, like we talk sometimes behind the scenes about like production decisions and reasons that they do things as they're creating the show. The fact that James Austin Johnston has like dominated the first 3 episodes, Sarah's gone in a couple things, and now they've given Aristotle a lead sketch in the first 3 episodes is something we have not seen on the show in a very long time. Them giving their first year performers a chance to perform on the show. Are you happy to see this decision by production to let this happen?
Oh, yes, this is how it should be. Of course, you hire people, you put them out there, do the sketches, make the funny. Yeah, so this is exactly how SNL should be working, and I'm kind of shocked that this wasn't the plan 10-1, because this does feel like the perfect 10-1, 5-1 for this particular night, and I was shocked at how bizarre this was. I think Aristotle did great. The whole thing baffled me in the best way. I was so confused and just like, what is happening? Also, why is Daniel Craig back? Oh, because Rami's in the sketch. Okay, but why couldn't we have thrown in a cast member, because we have like 30 of them? But whatever, that's fine. And just, I was so gloriously confused by it all. And as you pointed out on your Twitter page, we didn't get the Please Don't Destroy pre-tape, but this was written by those guys, along with Brian Tucker. And I don't know if this is going to be a continued, collaboration between those, but if Tucker is going to be the one to shepherd these boys into learning how to write for SNL, then I am all for it, because this one really had just a vibe I was into. It confused me in a brilliant way, and I kind of loved it, and I want to watch it again. It's one of those things where it's like, I gotta watch that again. That was so crazy that I really need to dive deeper into the world that this sketch created.
Yes.
And in the event that Aristotle has the ultimate successful SNL career and into stardom beyond, it'll be funny that is his first moment on the show. It's you have to have one, and it might as well be this just kind of off the wall, like, let's just do it. It's so crazy that he was able to play it so quietly. That's like we were discussing pre-show, just like, what was he saying? And to have somebody out there almost, saying unidentifiable lines is ballsy.
For sure. And that, you know what, the other thing is, sorry, Haynes, I just want to say, like, the other thing is that this could have been what Aristotle did in his audition. Like, when you see something that's so out there from a particular cast member, that's where my mind always goes. Like, he did this in his audition. They probably liked it. And then he was like lucky enough to get this on the show. Typically, when, at least in the last 5 years, we've seen people take their audition material and do it on update. And I think that the fact that they gave him an actual live sketch to do this on shows how much they feel, like how strongly they feel about Aristotle at this point, that they were willing to give him that. Haynes, what did you think about this sketch?
Well, I enjoyed it a lot. And we talked about this, just in the very brief, minute or two we had before we got on here. My 2 notes, I only wrote 2 notes for the sketch, and that was, Aristotle's first lead role and a true 10-1 sketch, even though it apparently wasn't planned to be. It sure felt like it. And I didn't know that this was written by the Please Don't Destroy guys and Brian Tucker. I love Brian Tucker, and I'm a big fan of Please Don't Destroy guys as well. Like you were saying, Andrew Dick, if Brian Tucker is going to be the one to shepherd these gentlemen into their writing legacy at SNL, we could be in really fun stuff. Aristotle was someone that I was really excited about seeing on the show. I'd seen a little bit of his stand-up and stuff, but I obviously really loved his character Gabe on Silicon Valley, and it was just really, we've still only seen him in the 10-1 sketches up to this point, but they were very minor roles, and this had such strong Armisen vibes, and it was so cool. And like I said, it almost looked like Cecily was like kind of impressed, almost like having like laughing at him during the sketch too, trying not to break at some points. So Yeah, it was awesome.
I also just want to point out our friend Darren Patterson from the SNL Nerds podcast says that Aristotle did this character on Just for Laughs, New Faces this past summer. The video's up on YouTube. Thank you, Darren, for pointing that out.
Yeah,
that's
so
really
okay, this is a legacy character for him. Interesting.
So it probably, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the other thing about the PDD guys is that they also had a sketch written with Streeter that got cut in Dress as well. So it'll be interesting to see who they end up working with, moving forward.
They're really churning out the stuff.
Yeah, they are. They're getting their opportunities too, as well as the newbies in the cast. So it really does feel like a little bit of a changing of the guard in a way. And I do wonder if we're getting that vibe as we head towards, who knows what will be at the end of the season and what will be next year. But I really like what we're getting to see at the start of the season. Let's go around. Let's give our scores for the episode out of 10. Haynes, I will put you, out of 10. Haynes, I will put you on the spot. Give me your rating out of 10. Chat, please give me your ratings as well. I will put them up on screen.
Out of 10. Wow, I'm so used to the letter grade. I'll give it a 7. Can I give it a 7.7? Can I lean toward an 8? I'm giving it a 7.7.
You can do whatever you want.
7.79.
All right, let's do that. Andrew Dick, where are you on this episode?
Son of a gun. Well, I usually operate on a 5-point scale, so I would have gone 3 out of 5. So I'm going to go 6.5. Yeah, a couple of real strong sketches in there. Good energy to carry it through. I'm glad, even though we stumbled last week, the show does seem to know that we do need to establish the new. We need to get in there and really get a new era of the show up and running. And we're all ready for it. We just had this hour-long discussion and we're all super pumped for it. And so I hope we continue just rushing into it. So 6.5, not the strongest, but definitely the best of the 3 so far. And I hope we just continue to get better, just I'm kind of back in. We'll see.
For sure. Yeah, that's really exciting. We love it when you're into the show. Rob, where's your rating? What is your rating out of 10?
Yeah, I would give it the show overall 7.25. But
okay.
Are you making fun of me, pal?
No, I swear to God, I'm not. 10 out of 10 for Young Thug's performance. Love me some Thug. And then
do we have bonus points for musical guests here?
8 out of 10 for Rami Malek, very clearly trying to be very evocative when introducing Young Thug, knowing he's going to end up on that Twitter someday.
Give me one rating for the episode.
Gentlemen, I give you an episode.
One rating. That's all I ask for. It's late.
7.25. I'm sorry for talking about the show that we just watched. I'm sorry. I don't know. I didn't know that was off. I didn't know that was off the table.
Somebody's cranky.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it in bounds.
Yes. Okay. So for me, this was a 7.5. I really think, and I'm just gonna, I think we're all on the same page about it. I think this is a really, really good episode of the show. I feel very confident of what we're gonna see moving forward. With Jason coming in next week, to me, I'm hoping that they keep the momentum going. I don't want them to go completely off the rails in a Jason Sudeikis direction. As much as I love that era of the show, that is my era of the show that I fell in love with, and I love Jason. I want them to, bring Jason into this era. I don't want the era to revert to the era that we saw 10 years ago. I'm fine with cameos. That's fine.
No, I say no cameos.
But I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. And I want to see
cameos.
No, I'm fine with it. Give me Forte and Sudeikis next week. I don't care. But
you don't get them.
But I will never I will never besmirch having Will Forte on the show. But
that's right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, but what
even I'm pro alumni cameos.
Okay, yeah. So I'm saying I'm fine with all that. I know that I just don't need to see an episode from season 32. I'm fine to see an episode from season 47 with Jason in it and seeing what we're hopefully is gonna be a really great episode.
We need to carry momentum that we're building.
Yeah. Yes. For sure. So anyways, I'm really looking forward to what we are going to see next week. As for our coverage coming up this week, so obviously tonight we had our hot take show. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. On Monday night, we have our roundtable. So if you think that we had a lot of fun tonight getting into the sketches, we're going to dive even deeper. We're going to talk about that mattress sketch. We'll talk about a lot of things that were really fun and weird from the show tonight, how much fun that we ended up having. Did you guys have fun too? I mean, we're going to talk about what we saw from the SNL community, what their opinions were as we go through the week on our patron feedback show, as we bring up, tweets and Instagram stuff from the SNL alumni, people talking about the show. Every single week, we get to talk to a patron who joins us, who's joined our patron community, and we get to take questions as well from the community. So if you have questions for us, we'll put up a question thread on Twitter tomorrow. Please send us in your questions or send us in a response to an Instagram DM as we go through the questions every single week with the patrons on the Patreon feedback show, patreon.com/the SNL Network. And then in 1 week from tonight, we will be back here once again to break down everything from Jason Sudeikis and Brandi Carlile's show. And that will be a lot of fun. It's so great when alumni come back. I know we've been waiting for Jason for a very long time. I cannot wait to talk about that before we have a little break until our November stuff. So, Andrew Haynes, thank you so much for talking and joining us. I really appreciate seeing you and getting to talk some SNL. Where can people reach out to you?
You can always find me on Twitter at SNL Has a Cast. I'm on Instagram at CandrewAttitude. Of course, I love being on the show. This was so much fun tonight. I can't wait to talk with you guys again.
100%. Andrew Dick, thank you for joining us. I'm so glad you joined, and I'm so glad you enjoyed the episode, really, honestly.
Yes, it finally happened.
Put it in the record books.
Yeah, where can people reach out to you and check out your show?
So that week in SNL, we are covering vintage episodes of the show. And so, hey, if you're watching this, you're listening to this, you like the SNL Network, you like John, and you like John, right? We did an episode with John about the Louise Lasser episode from season 1 over the summer. So, if you don't quite know if you want to get into our podcast, check out the one we did with John, and we're going to do another one with him that we're recording tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow, John.
Yeah, back-to-back nights with you. That'll be fun.
it's the worst.
Yeah, for sure. Always great to hear from you, Andrew. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people reach out to you?
Absolutely. At Robert J. Finn on Twitter or Instagram. And if you'd like to learn some more about the SNL audition process, check out SaturdayNightProject.com. New version of the site coming soon.
Ooh.
Yeah, awesome. And also, Rob, you have been on the SNL Superfans Clubhouse group every Sunday night with another one of our podcast hosts, TJ, as well. So if you want to talk with Rob or talk with TJ and you have the app Clubhouse, they're live every Sunday evening talking about SNL. So feel free to join that show.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. We're having fun at 7:00 over there. We have a group. We'll post a link to it tomorrow on the social media at some point, I'm sure. Come join us. Fun stuff. Sunday Night Live.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. So please subscribe to us on YouTube or any podcatcher that you listen to the show on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We really appreciate that. That helps people find the show. You can follow us at the SNL Network on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the socials. And you can find me at Jon Schneider 24. Thank you all for staying up late with us. It's so much fun to get to talk some hot takes every single Saturday night. We will see you next weekend, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye. See ya.